And welcome back. As Americans grapple with the return of student loan payments after a 3-year pause, many are adjusting their budgets to accommodate the financial shift. Now, a recent survey from the National Endowment for Financial Education reveals a significant 74% of borrowers with student loan balances have made changes to their monthly budgets, with many cutting back on essential expenses. Try saying that twice. All right, joining me now to share more is the president and CEO of the National Endowment for Financial Education, Dr. Billy Hensley. And good to have you, Dr. Hensley.
Good morning. Thank you.
I think I got essential expenses down pat now, but listen, people are trying to make this adjustment, and everybody's not going to get student loan forgiveness. We know that. So for the rest that are not out there under this forgiveness plan and trying to really find a way to navigate, how has this whole situation of resuming payments really affected the population?
Yes. So last October, when the repayment pause ended, we explored what people believed would happen, what were they expecting, and how it would impact their finances. And now here we are a year later. We know the reality of how borrowers are managing those loans. And this is no small number. A little over a quarter of the population currently have outstanding loans, or someone close to them, a child or grandchild, for example, has a student loan. There's a bit of positive news and there's some considerable concerning news as well. The positive being the majority are saying that they are doing okay, at least for right now. Keep in mind that nearly 1 in 5 may not have had to make payments yet. But sadly, 27% say the end of the pause has negatively impacted their financial lives. The bit of silver lining here is that it's lower than the 49% who were anticipating that last fall. More concerning news, though, is that what you noted, that the monthly budgets have been strained, with 74% making cuts out of their budget, 28% cutting up to $500 a month, 21% between $500 and $1,000 a month. And those are fairly significant changes to a monthly budget when you've gotten used to something that's just a bit different.
What has this done for students who've actually had to think about the possibility of furthering their education when you've got this high debt that's you're looking at, you're saying, listen, I gotta pay this off. Uh, are they going back into the educational field?
Well, two-thirds are actually saying they're satisfied with the education that they've received, but a third are saying they are less likely to pursue additional education. Now, when we asked that question last fall, it was 47% were saying they were less likely to pursue additional education. So that has adjusted down a fair amount. But really, what it comes down to is the more you owe, the higher the balance is less likely to continue that education. And, I'm a first generation college student myself. I had student loans for many years more than I want to admit, really. But it's an investment in self. The value here, according to the Social Security Administration on earnings, is that people with a 4-year degree will earn a median $630 to $900,000 more over the course of their lifetime. So, looking at this as a return on investment, the cost of the degree versus earning potential is a good way to frame this when you're thinking about your decisions about future education.
Yeah, and when we look at future education, obviously people need it. If you're going to try to advance your career, it's very necessary. I think the cost factor is something that so many people are just really trying to consider. How do I navigate getting education and having to deal with that, having to deal with that cost factor? So when we talk about planning and that planning structure, whether it's long term, what do we know about long term planning by way of people who are saying, listen, I got to get ready for this because it's going to be a high hurdle.
Right. Well, we know that higher education is expensive. The average annual cost is over $28,000 a year. Educating yourself as soon as possible, whether you're thinking about going back to school, getting more credentials or so forth, learn as much as you can, because financial education actually helps people make better decisions about borrowing. They borrow less, they borrow fewer dollars in private loans, and they're 21% less likely to have credit card debt. And so when you're thinking about that long term investment in yourself, it's important. Uh, Take advantage of all of the information that's available at studentaid.gov and work with your student loan servicer. Uh, Over half of borrowers are actually satisfied with the quality and frequency of information that they're receiving. So use that to advocate for yourself. If their communication is good or clear, then create a dialogue with them. Explore things like consolidation, which may lower the payment, but it will add more time to the loan usually. Beware of scams. We know this topic is front and center. People are talking about it. Some of us are really desperate to make ends meet in our budget and may fall victim to scams. So protect yourself, protect your information, work directly with resources instead of go arounds. And just don't forget that if it's too good to be true or someone's asking you to pay a fee, just ignore it and move on.
Yeah. What can you tell us really right now about for repayment plans? We're hearing a lot about forgiveness, and we know that's a political issue, and it's a lot been said about that. But it's really forgiveness is available in some ways, and then there's also the repayment plans that are out there. So for a student that may be trying to navigate, trying to continue their educational future, really just trying to navigate the unemployment world, what can you tell us about those two areas?
Well, there are multiple repayment plan options, and you have to find the one that's right for you. There's some driven by income level, and so it'll adjust your payment based on how much you earn, and it won't be over a certain percent of what you earn. Uh, some of these forgiveness plans have been challenged in court, and they've been stopped or delayed. Some of these decisions are pending. So again, keep up with this news. Track this through your loan provider or studentaid.gov. But make sure you are in the right payment plan for your situation because there are multiple ways to sort of reconsider repayment plans. But make something that fits best within your budget, and know that if you add time to it, it will continue. You'll have the payments much longer than maybe you even originally thought. But if it helps you make the ends meet at the moment and you have good, strong earning potential in your future, it may be a good option for you.
Yeah, and a lot of people out there choosing deferment. Are you seeing any particular trends in this area?
Well, I don't have that data right in front of me in terms of any particular trends, but deferment and forbearance have been tools for many years to help people get through those tough times in their career. One of the things we know in our research over many years of asking questions like this is that almost every year you are 70% of us, I should say, will face an unexpected expense, and there are tools to help with that. But most of those have to be through the federal student loan programs. Some of the private loans do not have those kind of forgiveness options. So make sure you are borrowing through the Department of Education loans because anything that's forgiven or relief, private loans will not qualify for most of those.
Yeah. Dr. Billy Hensley is the president and CEO of National Endowment for Financial Education. We've been sharing and talking uh, throughout the course of this segment. And Dr. Hensley, let me ask you this question. I think that COVID was a game changer. Not think, we know that COVID was a game changer for many in the educational world. How did it impact from your perspective?
Well, it depends on it affected us all in so many ways. But one of the benefits of the program to pause student loan repayment, especially for people who are earlier in their careers, if they had a disruption in their earning, it helped them adjust to that. Most every one of us will have up to four significant financial disruptions in our earning potential, as high as 10% reduction in that. So some of these pauses helped people make those ends meet. And so it helped with that. But now, when you add inflation and a changing workforce and more mobility for certain kinds of jobs, it creates more competitiveness. And so you'll need to spend more time advocating for yourself, becoming aware of every program that's available, and doing a little more homework than maybe we had to do before to understand how to navigate the student loan repayment system.
Yeah. And how do we see student loans playing out in the future?
Well, this needs to be a central point in the presidential election. 64% of borrowers want this to be a key issue, a major platform consideration for both candidates. This is tens of millions of people, all potential voters. And no matter right or left people hold this opinion across the aisle that this needs to be considered. There needs to be policy solutions for the borrower.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I tell you what, it's a lot. It's a lot to consider, a lot to think about coming down the pike. And as you said, this is a political issue that probably will be addressed in some way, shape, or form after November.
Yes,
So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
we'll see.
Yeah, Dr. Billy Hensley, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Take care.
All righty, listen, he's from the National Endowment of Financial Education and the CEO. So listen, if you want more information, visit the website at nefe.org.